In Nigeria, the presidential initiative on compressed natural gas has begun the distribution of 1,000 conversion kits across some states in the Federation to minimize the impact of the fuel subsidy removal. Well, the government says the move will bring down transportation costs and generate over 100,000 direct jobs over the next 3 years. Commercial transport operators will be converted free of charge to minimize the impact of the fuel subsidy. Climate finance and policy expert FG-Ugochukwu joins me now for more on this. And then, of course, there's the other argument as to, the preference for EVs as electric vehicles and compressed natural gas. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight.
Pleasure to be here.
Maybe that's where we should start from. There's this, compelling argument. Some are saying CNG for now for Nigeria is the best way to go, while others are saying the more sustainable direction to go is with electric vehicles, considering the zero emission levels. Let's take it from there.
Well, certainly they are right, and that's where the rest of the world is going. But we have to take into account our own peculiar circumstances in terms of access to power, right. The road network. But I think it's important to point out that the initiative has a dual objective, which includes CNG and some EV, to also be able to learn from that experience to ensure that both products are available for the market. I think it's important to point out that this has policy backing. So it's really not coming from the air.
That's the CNG.
The CNG.
Yes.
And there's also policy backing for EVs. CNG is in what's known as the nationally determined contributions, which is each country's commitment to the Paris Agreement in terms of what they will be able to deliver
on the carbon
on carbon reduction.
Yeah.
And within the energy transition plan, there's also a target of 25% CNG by 2030 and 80% CNG by 2050, with a slow progression towards EVs. So it's a practical approach to take into account the fact that we have a peculiar situation in terms of power, but that gas is plentiful. And
Nigeria has it in quantum.
Has it in quantity, and the other aspect of it is the savings. You save about 400 to 500 naira equivalent per liter, right. Which goes to the user. The other savings will be to the government, because once you have those vehicles out there, the amount of the subsidy that the government would have to put up with would go down. And you could break that into two parts, because this is where the financial management aspect comes in. You could break that into two parts, where some of that funding could go to continue to fund the conversion of more vehicles, which you mentioned earlier, and another part could go towards creating the infrastructure that supports the provision of the vehicles.
Based on the drive towards cleaner energy.
Yes.
But fundamentally, what exactly is the difference between CNG and EVs?
Well, EVs are cleaner, but CNG is slightly cleaner than PMS, and this is the key difference. But for EVs, I mean, in our own peculiar situation, like I mentioned earlier, it's the access to power that is the problem. In other, it's not a completely new approach. Other markets use CNG.
Yeah, in Iran.
Iran is over 4 million vehicles. Globally, 23 million. In the US, about 160,000 CNG vehicles, mostly for intracity transport.
Okay.
In the OECD countries, 500,000 CNG vehicles. So there is evidence that it is used in other markets, Pakistan, Argentina. In fact, in Pakistan, it's 70% of vehicles there on CNG.
Have we been able to investigate in terms of the immediate, short, medium to long-term impact of CNG? Is there anything to worry about? Because we've been told, look, there are no fires, no explosions, even when you have to convert from PMS to CNG. But how reassured should we be that there is a total zero risk?
Well, the conversion has been happening, and there's no zero risk in anything really, because even with PMS, we always have these problems with tankers exploding. But it's management.
Those are avoidable risks.
Well, I mean, yes, but it's all down to...
The ones that are totally beyond our control, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, there's limited risk, and it has to do with management as well. And the PICNG has been very conscious of that aspect, because they do realize that one incident could torpedo the confidence in this project.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But the cost of conversion, it is still high.
Well, 750,000 to $1 million, but it's covered by the government. So it goes back... Totally? Yes, it goes back to what
So if I go to a conversion center now, I can get it converted free of charge?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So it goes back to what I said earlier on, because I think what you would think is, well, how does this money come back? It comes back from that process of reducing the amount the government would have to put in for subsidy. So it's back to the financial management aspect of it, that you provide this benefit to the user to convert the vehicle to get your own benefit, whereby the fact that the subsidy is reduced, and you can use a portion of that to add to convert more vehicles.
How soon, how quickly is CNG likely to get to every part of the country?
Well,
because
the target...
some parts are still feeling left out now.
Yes, the target is 1 million vehicles, and again, part of it has to do with infrastructure. The main part of the country that has access to gas pipelines is mostly in the south, up until the north central, so the southwest, south-south, and then parts of the north central. I think the highest point here is Abuja. The most difficult part...
You don't have it anywhere in the southeast yet?
Well, there are discussions about developing that.
Okay.
But in the northeast and in the northwest, those are the areas where the access to gas. So the infrastructure, part of it would be to provide the infrastructure to begin to deploy gas to those markets.
Well, what kind of infrastructure? In 30 seconds.
Pipelines. Okay. And then stations.
That's not cheap, is it?
Well, it's not. But again, it's part of the financial management aspect of it. We have to think about the cost-benefit analysis of the savings from switching to the investment to facilitate the switching.
All right, FG-Ugochukwu, thank you very much for joining us. Energy expert, would I be right to say so, to describe you as that?
More climate policy, yes. Thank you very much.
Well, Africa has been making a case that, look, let's make our money from fossil fuels so we can build the infrastructure, and transit to cleaner energy. Sound or fair argument?
Yes, and I think the fact that this is through the NDCs provides the opportunity for us to get external support to be able to do that.
Thank you very much for joining.